Welcome back to the D Show. This is where we take a stack of challenging material, really dig in, and give you the knowledge shortcut you need.
Yep.
Today, we're stepping onto the mat, so to speak. We're getting deep into the world of martial arts, and we're looking specifically at the history and the real function of Jiu-Jitsu, or Jujutsu.
And this dive is, I think, a really compelling one. The sources we've been analyzing all center on this powerful argument.
Which is?
That the true art of Jiu-Jitsu is a complete fighting system, a survival tool. It's not just the grappling sport that you see in MMA or competition BJJ.
Right.
So our mission today is to really understand how this more traditional style keeps its focus on real-world, complete self-defense.
And that right there, it immediately brings up a paradox that we have to unpack. Because when you hear Jiu-Jitsu today, your mind, it naturally goes to this incredible ground game, right? Submissions, control on the mat. So how did an art that's known all over the world for its ground techniques, how did that come from what was, historically a complete battlefield system that had striking, even weapons defense?
Well, it all comes down to intent and historical necessity. The source material draws a very hard line right from the start.
Okay.
The original practice was a self-defense system. It's rooted in history, and it was designed for lethal, real-world encounters. It's about preparing the individual mentally and physically for any situation, and that starts on your feet.
Okay, so let's unpack that historical blueprint. Let's go all the way back. Where and why did Jiu-Jitsu develop this sort of comprehensive all-in approach?
You have to go all the way back to feudal Japan, to the samurai. And this isn't just, a cool historical footnote. This is the entire design brief for the art.
The design brief, I like that.
Think about it. Samurai warfare meant heavy armor. It meant relying on your primary weapon, a sword, a spear, whatever. But what happens when you get disarmed?
Or you're just too close to even use a sword.
Exactly. Or you're wrestling on the ground, you've lost your weapon. What do you do then?
Right. And you can't rely on, brute strength when you're wearing 40 pounds of iron. You can't generate a huge wind-up for a punch.
Precisely. The systems they developed were not for sport. They were for immediate survival against an opponent who was also armored, highly skilled, and trying to kill you.
So Jiu-Jitsu was the backup system.
It was created to fill that exact gap for when the primary weapons failed. So it had to be a whole package. The original art, it had striking.
The targeted striking, right, at weak points in the armor.
Yes, vital, unarmored spots. It had throws to get the opponent off balance and, do damage on the impact. It had sophisticated joint locks and submissions. It was the complete toolbox for a disarmed warrior.
So the initial premise, then, it just fundamentally contradicts the modern specialized view. If the original system included all this stand-up fighting, that wasn't optional. That was central to the whole thing.
Absolutely central. And that shift in focus is what makes the history so important. The original art covers everything you need to defeat someone in a, let's say, a non-compliant environment.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. The whole journey to Brazil. Because that's what created the distinction we're all so familiar with today.
It is. This all happened in the early 20th century. A Japanese judo expert named Mitsuya Maeda introduced traditional jiu-jitsu to Brazil.
And he taught a man named Carlos Gracie.
That's the one. And from there, the Gracie family, they started this revolutionary process of adapting and refining the system.
And their huge innovation, their genius, was focusing almost entirely on the ground fight. They figured out that for a smaller, lighter person, which a lot of the early Gracies were, the ground was the great equalizer.
Absolutely. The ground lets you negate an opponent's reach, their striking power, their raw strength. It all becomes about leverage and technique.
And this adaptation, this is what became Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ.
That's right. And its effectiveness was proven, spectacularly in all these challenge matches. And then, of course, it got global fame through mixed martial arts. It's an undeniable powerhouse in combat.
And here's the core of the material we're looking at. That effectiveness came at the cost of breath. If you only train for the ground, what are you losing? What specific readiness do you sacrifice?
You lose readiness for environments that don't have rules. BJJ specialization, it's brilliant, but it inherently focuses your training on techniques that score points or set up submissions within a defined context.
A sport context.
Yes, if you train to, say, pull guard and immediately go to the ground, you sacrifice your proficiency in really crucial self-defense phases, like defending against strikes, or making a quick standing escape.
Or, and this is a big one, dealing with multiple attackers.
A huge one. The ground is a terrible place to be if more than one person is trying to hurt you, or if you're on concrete instead of a soft mat.
That's such a critical distinction. The sport is optimized for a one-on-one fight on a mat. Self-defense has to be optimized for, well, for chaos.
Exactly. And that brings us to today. And this conscious, dedicated effort by certain lineages to preserve that original, that broader self-defense focus, they saw the value in DJJ, but they refused to let go of the art's holistic roots.
So tell us about that. Who is championing this full-spectrum approach today?
Well, the source material points to a direct lineage through the Valente brothers. They were taught by their father, Grandmaster Pedro Valente Sr., and, this is key, they worked very closely with Grandmaster Helio Gracie himself.
Helio Gracie.
This specific lineage made it their mission to preserve and advance the self-defense curriculum that Helio Gracie prioritized, often, completely separate from the evolving sport rules.
And Pedro Valente Jr. is mentioned specifically as a mentor who really champions this view of jiu-jitsu as a complete system, not just a sport.
Correct. So the whole curriculum is designed to go beyond the rules of competition. You can even see it in the titles of their material. They aren't talking about how to score an advantage point.
They're talking about survival.
Yes. Titles like Critical Skill for Street Fights, Dropping into Base, or Unveiling the Art of Survival, 3 unique distinctions between self-defense jiu-jitsu and combat sports. The entire intent is geared toward the real world.
Okay, let's dig into one of those specifics. Dropping into base. In a competition, a controlled fall might be to set up a sweep or a submission. What does base mean in a street fight where punches are being thrown?
Oh, it changes everything. In a street fight, if you lose your balance, you get hit. You get knocked out. Dropping into base is the skill of instantly absorbing a shove or a strike or just losing your footing and landing safely.
Safely how?
In a posture that's designed to protect your head and let you immediately get back up. Or at least launch a counterattack from the ground. It's a defensive reaction. It's about managing chaos, not starting a controlled ground exchange.
That makes the intent crystal clear.
Okay, let's transition to the specifics of what that full system looks like. If we're going beyond specialized grappling, what are the 5 key pillars that define this kind of comprehensive self-defense curriculum?
This is really the heart of it. The sources lay out 5 components, and they're structured to cover the whole spectrum of conflict, from prevention all the way to physical fight.
Okay, walk us through the first 2, the physical parts.
Right. So the first is stand-up techniques. Like we talked about with the samurai, this is non-negotiable because almost every confrontation starts on the feet.
Right.
So this pillar includes striking, it includes throws, and crucially, clinching, controlling the distance and your opponent's posture. This is a huge contrast to a sport where someone might just choose to pull guard and skip the stand-up phase entirely.
So you have to be proficient on your feet. It's not just a transition. And the second pillar is ground defense. Now, we might think this is just standard jiu-jitsu, but how does self-defense ground defense differ from sport BJJ? Again, the intent changes the technique. In sport, you might spend 5 minutes working a submission chain from closed guard. In a self-defense situation, the goal is often just to get control, create space, and get back to your feet as fast as possible.
Because of those other dangers. Multiple attackers, weapons.
Exactly. So yes, you use submissions, but the top priority is survival, protecting yourself from strikes and getting back up. Escaping is paramount.
Okay, so those cover the physical fight. But what really seems to set this system apart are the next 3 pillars, the ones that move beyond the mat. What's number 3?
The third is weapon defense. This is a non-negotiable part of a true self-defense system. It means dedicated techniques for dealing with armed attackers, whether it's knives, sticks, or even firearms.
Okay, I have to challenge that a little bit.
Yeah.
Isn't weapon defense? I mean, isn't it inherently unrealistic unless you're training under extreme live fire pressure? What does the material say about the practicality of learning to disarm someone?
That is an excellent critical point. And the material isn't suggesting you can, charge a gunman and win every time.
Right. The training focuses on fundamental principles. Managing distance, controlling the weapon line, using leverage to de-escalate or disarm in a worst-case close quarters scenario. The goal isn't to guarantee a perfect disarm. It's to give you a principle-based chance of survival when escape is impossible.
So it's about not freezing. It's about understanding the geometry of the threat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's training for a low percentage but potentially necessary reaction.
Got it. Okay, what about the fourth pillar?
The fourth is situational awareness. And you could argue this is the most crucial pillar of all.
Because the best fight is the one you avoid.
The one you avoid entirely. This training is all about recognizing and avoiding potential threats. It's about reading body language, understanding pre-attack indicators, and just maintaining a higher level of alertness in your environment.
So this is where the training really moves off the mat and into your daily life. It's proactive assessment, not just reactive combat. Precisely. It's the foundation of survival. You're training your mind to process potential danger cues, which hopefully keeps you out of the situations where you'd even need the first three pillars.
And that leads us to the fifth and final pillar, philosophy. This sounds abstract, but the source material really positions it as the foundation for everything else.
Yes, the fifth pillar is philosophy, and it's really about how you present yourself through life. This isn't just some moral code. It's about the confidence, the posture, the mindset of competence that you internalize.
How does that help?
If you carry yourself with awareness and confidence, you are inherently a less attractive target for predators. The training develops your character right alongside your physical technique.
That is profound. And it connects the physical work directly back to that motto they underscore everything with.
Yeah.
You are worth defending.
That motto is the engine for the whole thing. It's a philosophical reason to put in the hard physical work, because you believe in your own survival and in protecting the people you care about. And that comprehensive approach is why they apply this training everywhere, from foundations classes and youth programs to corporate team building. They're teaching a way of interacting with the world, not just a sport.
So what's the big takeaway for the listener? For someone out there thinking about signing up for a martial arts class, it sounds like you have to first understand the intents behind the school's teaching.
That's it, exactly.
Are you training for points on a mat, or are you training for survival in the real world?
And you have to recognize that the real measure of effectiveness isn't found in a controlled, safe environment. The value of the style is measured by its ability to prepare you for uncontrolled, unpredictable violence. It's that commitment to the philosophical pillar that drives the realism in the physical training.
The source material really reinforces this with a beautiful, anonymous thought of the moment that ties the philosophy directly to action. It says, I might believe what you say, but I will believe what I see you do.
That quote is just so potent in this context, isn't it? It means the true value of your training isn't the color of your belt or the theories you can recite.
That's what you can do.
It's the capability you can demonstrate when the pressure is real. If the philosophy informs the action, then the action provides the proof. Your Ds are the ultimate evidence of the competence and the character that you've developed through the art.
That perfectly sums up the journey we've taken today. From the disarmed samurai who needed a complete fighting system, through the specialization that created BJJ, all the way to the modern effort to preserve the full five-pillar Jujutsu system. The material argues, pretty forcefully, that the true art is about that full spectrum empowering you physically, mentally, and philosophically.
Absolutely. We've covered the history, that critical divergence that created the sport, and the dedicated efforts to maintain Jiu-Jitsu as a complete system that includes striking, weapons defense, awareness, and character.
So before we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought from this deep dive. Considering the huge emphasis on that fifth pillar philosophy, or how you present yourself through life, how might the non-physical part of this training fundamentally change your daily interactions? Your confidence, your decision-making, even if you never, ever have to use the physical techniques?
Think about that, the practical application of just awareness and posture. How does the quiet knowledge that you are capable of defending yourself change the way you walk down a street or negotiate a deal or react to stress? That non-physical competence, that's the true daily takeaway from this kind of training, and that's something worth mulling over.
A really compelling concept to end on. And if this approach to self-defense resonates with you, the source material actually has an invitation for a complimentary class, so you can experience this firsthand. All the details on how to follow up on that are available where you found these notes.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.